Shaktva Sudushya Surepsi Raja Lakshmin. I think I better change the meter again. Shaktva Sudushya Surepsi Raja Lakshmin. Dharmishta Arya Vachasayad Agad Aranyam. Maya Mrigam Dayatayepshita Anvadavad. Bande Mahapurusha Te Charanaravindam. Shaktva Sudushya Surepsita Raja Lakshmim. Dharmishta Arya Vachasayad Agad Aranyam. Maya Mrigam Dayatayepsita Anvadavad. Vande Mahapurusha Te Charanaravindam. O Mahapurusha, I worship your lotus feet. You gave up the association of the goddess of fortune and all of her opulence, which is most difficult to renounce and is hankered after by even great demigods. Being the most faithful follower of the path of religion, you, thus, left for the forest in obedience to a Brahmana's curse. Out of sheer mercifulness, you chased after the fallen conditioned souls who are always in pursuit of the false enjoyment of illusion and, at the same time, engaged in searching out your desired object, Lord Shyamasundara. So we completed part of the purport, and we're continuing, if my memory is right, at the bottom of page 60, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Is that where we begin? Huh? Okay, got it. The word Dayataya can be explained as follows. The Sanskrit word Daya means mercy. Thus, by grammatical derivation, the word used in this verse, Dayataya, indicates that because of being the most merciful, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was busily engaged in rescuing the fallen conditioned souls who are completely distracted and bewildered by the external illusory energy of the Lord. The quality of being the most merciful is part and parcel of the character of the Mahapurusha, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, this verse also describes the incarnation of Lord Krishna himself in his original blackish form. Thus the words Surepsita Raja Lakshmin indicate Sri Mathura Sampatim, or the opulence of Mathura. Mathura is described in the Vedic literature as the reservoir of all opulence because of the touch of the Lord's lotus feet in that precinct. But Krishna, although taking birth in the opulent city of Mathura, transferred himself to the forest village of Vrindavan. In this case, the word Arya Vachasa indicates the order of Lord Krishna's original parents, Vasudeva and Devaki. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 10.3, 22 and 29, both Vasudeva and Devaki expressed their fear at the threat of Kamsa, who had already killed all of Krishna's elder brothers. The word Arya Vachasa thus indicate that with great love, they requested Krishna to kindly make some arrangement to avoid Kamsa. And Krishna, to obey their order, transferred himself to the forest village of Vrindavan, Yad Agad Aranyam. In this context, the words Mayamragam indicate the special, exalted relationship between Srimati Radharani and Sri Krishna. Maya also indicates the internal potency of Krishna, Yoga Maya. The original form of Krishna's internal potency is Srimati Radharani. Due to the inconceivable love of Srimati Radharani, Lord Krishna becomes easily controlled by her. Thus, Mrigam, or animal, in this case indicates Krida Mrigam, or a toy animal. Just as a beautiful young girl may play with so many dolls or stuffed animals, similarly Lord Krishna became just like a doll in the hands of the most beautiful young girl, Srimati Radharani. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, Srimati Radharani performed innumerable types of worship in order to bind Krishna more and more to her, because Srimati Radharani cannot live without Krishna. Thus, due to Srimati Radharani's aradhanam, or worship, Krishna can never leave Vrindavan. He runs here and there in Vrindavan, protecting the cows, playing with his friends, and engaging in countless intrigues of love with Srimati Radharani and the gopis. Thus the word Anvadavat indicates Krishna's boyish activities, is running throughout the transcendental land of Vrindavan tightly under the control of the love of Srimati Radharani. Srila Sridhar Swami has explained how this verse also describes the incarnation of Lord Ramachandra. Although the Lord is completely independent and detached from everything, he becomes attached to his pure devotees due to their love for him. In the great capital of Ayodhya, all the citizens loved Ramachandra more than can be described. In this context, Arya Vachasa means that by the order of his father, who was just like his guru, Ramachandra gave up everything and went to the forest. There, he exhibited his great affection for Mother Sita and chased after Maya Mrigam, or the illusory deer, that had been created by the trick of Ravana. That this golden deer was especially desired by Srimati Sita Devi is indicated by the word Dayatayepsitam. Paragraph. All of the limbs of the Lord's transcendental body are non-different and interchangeable, as stated in Brahma Samhita, Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vritti Manti, etc. All the limbs, Angani, of the Supreme Lord are Sakalendriya Vrit Timanti, or possessing all of the functions of all of the other limbs. Thus, the two lotus feet of the personality of Godhead are a plenary representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and worshiping the Lord's lotus feet immediately places the worshipper in the ocean of transcendental bliss. There is no factual difference in spiritual quality between the incarnations of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Krishna, and Sri Ramachandra. As stated in Vedic literatures, Advaitam Achyutam Anadam Anantarupam. Therefore, there is no contradiction in the opinions of the Acharyas that this verse wonderfully glorifies three different manifestations of the one absolute truth. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is undoubtedly the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His transcendental attributes fulfill, in every sense of the term, the descriptions of the absolute truth as given in the Vedic literature. in Chaitanya Charitamrita. In the third chapter of Adi Lila, Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami and Srila Prabhupada have given elaborate explanations of the transcendental status of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which the leader can refer to for further information. Everyone should follow the example of the sage Karabhajana and worship the lotus feet of the Mahaprabhu, the Mahapurusha, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One should not rot on the platform of mental speculation and whimsical interpretation, but should actually revive his lost relationship with the Absolute Truth by surrendering to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Those who are worshipping Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are deriving wonderful spiritual results and are tasting the fruit of love of Krishna. Therefore, Mande Mahapurusha Te Charanadavindam. Let us humbly bow down at the lotus feet of the original personality Godhead, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the Mahapurusha, glorified within Srimad Bhagavatam. Final paragraph. Corroborating the explanation of this verse, the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also worship him in the six-armed form of Sadbhuj. 2 arms carry the water pot and danda of the sannyasi Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. 2 arms carry the flute of Lord Krishna, and 2 arms carry the bow and arrow of Sri Ramachandra. This Sadbhuja form is the actual purport of this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. Very nice explanation following our great acharyas, specifically Sanatan Goswami and Jiva Goswami, and of course he's not one of the 6 Goswamis, but Shankar, what's his? Sridhar Swami. The reason for selecting this verse, just a refresh, it has to do with the topic of this visit, the 6 Goswamis, and the Sad Goswami Astaka by Srinivasacharya and Srila Prabhupada singing of the Sad Goswami Astaka in such a way that intermittent within the Sad Goswami Astaka, he sings this verse in its entirety, complementing the Bhagavatam's explanation of the 6 Goswamis worshipping Lord Chaitanya, with Karabhajana Muni honoring Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. At least that's the manner in which Prabhupada sang. And there's 2 parts of the Sad Goswami Astaka that connect. The merciful nature of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that he traveled here and there to give transcendental teachings to everyone, and as it says here in this verse, Mayamragam dayata yepsitam andavadvad. So he chasing after, in pursuit of the living entities. You chased after the fallen conditioned souls who are always in pursuit of false enjoyment. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave his pastime dedication to conditioned souls. Although he primarily remained in Puri at the behest of his mother, it's very interesting pastimes. He, the renunciate, requested Lord Nityananda, the Avaduta, to become married. And then in his state of being married, to travel in Bengal because his mother said to stay in Puri, so he has to stay in Puri. But he also appeared in this world to deliver souls by giving the holy name. So you travel about as a Grihastha throughout all of Bengal, which at that time was really big, much bigger than today, and distribute the holy name. So the sannyasi stayed in Puri and the Grihastha traveled around. And among his principal followers, the 6 Goswamis, stay in one place, completely detached from the world, and stay in one place and spread Krishna consciousness around the world by this method, establishing places of pilgrimage, restoring those for lost and forgotten places of Krishna's pastimes, and write books so that the correct understanding of Krishna can be again restored, because there was not much understanding and more misunderstanding, abundant misunderstanding for people who are interested. But as Kali Yuga progresses, tendency is towards less and less interest, which is a challenge. But the gift of the Goswamis made, even for in this Shikshastika verse, even the Adira people, the ruffians, in Prabhupada's translation, the gentle and the ruffians, Dira Jana Priyo, that they somehow become attracted. Somehow. In many lectures, Prabhupada would refer to a conversation that took place between him and a priest in Boston. And the priest in Boston was asking, how is this? Your people are our people, but they weren't coming to the church. And now they're coming like anything. So how is this happening? So the ruffians became gentle. And that was Lord Chaitanya's interest, without consideration of whether they're gentle or whether they're ruffians. Now, he gave his association in very special ways to those who are gentle. Gentle meaning having refined character. And through those with refined character, he invested appropriate potency to spread Krishna consciousness. That we'll be hearing more and more in the course of the 6 Goswami discussions. They were specifically empowered, particularly, repeatedly, in Chaitanya Charitamrita at different times. Lord Chaitanya said the same about Rupa Goswami, that he empowered him to do what he did. And what he did was the leader amongst the Goswamis, or having that, having the respect and regard of everyone, even his elder brother, who Rupa Goswami looked up to as his Shiksha Guru. In the transcendental relation, we're Rupanugas, followers of Rupa Goswami, because of his being so qualified, to being so Dira, that Lord Chaitanya just piled up, invested so much potency in him, so that he could, as chase after the fallen conditioned souls by staying in Vrindavan and doing what he did. Because to this day, particularly by the grace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's followers, all over the world, people are chasing after the conditioned souls who are in pursuit of false enjoyment of illusion, and somehow becoming attracted to reality instead of illusion, and having some clarity as to the difference between reality and illusion, which is one of the main principles or gifts of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's right in the very first verse, reality distinguished from illusion. And it's not easy for someone who's covered to distinguish the distinction between reality and illusion. It's not easy. In fact, generally it's taken the opposite. Reality is illusion, illusion is reality. And then stick out their tongue and say, so there. I mean, that's a tendency. Reality distinguished from illusion is not easily understood. Let's tell our friend we saved him a spot. He went to get a mask. Okay. Good. Very good. Somehow, we got some good fortune. Somehow, out of all the wandering souls, somehow we got good fortune. And we're able, at least the option is provided to us, to connect with reality distinguished from illusion. And did I provide the link of Radhika Raman explaining the Prabhupada singing of this? Okay, I should do that. Yes, no? No. You send me a note to remind me, and I'll send it out. It's his explanation is wonderful. That's how I came to know of this particular verse, because I had also heard that rendering hundreds of times. I mean, one of the gifts that Prabhupada consciously made is he made recordings of his singing. And, it really very early, I can tell you very early in the Hare Krishna movement, he had the devotees make arrangements to take him to a professional recording studio and make recordings, which were then made, because he knew how to use the material energy, they were made into LPs, long playing, vinyl records. And this was one of the recordings, Sad Goswami Astaka, Brahma Samhita. I mean, I don't know how many times, hundreds of times, I've heard that recording. And, because music was popular, Prabhupada knew that music was popular. He had some disciples that knew how to do recordings, so he did recordings. And sometimes he'd just sit in his own room with whatever recording facility he had, and he would play all the instruments. He'd make soundtracks on top of the soundtrack on top. He'd play the harmonium, then he'd listen again, he'd play the mridanga, he'd listen again and play the kartals. And it was as a one-man band. And, but sometimes it was others. And what was the purpose? I mean, just like, what's the purpose of doing what we're doing about hearing about the six Goswamis? Same purpose. It's just understandings of these great personalities and the dedication that they had to Lord Chaitanya, and the dedication that Lord Chaitanya had as presented in this verse. So when singing the Sad Goswami Astaka, it just slipped right in there. The Srinivasacharya in his Sad Goswami Astaka is describing how the six Goswamis were assisting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this way. And then he goes right to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, what he was doing. And then, but the Goswamis are assistants of him. And Prabhupada is an assistant of the Goswamis. And we're meant to be assistants of Prabhupada, an assistant of the Goswamis, an assistant of Lord Chaitanya, who's chasing after the conditioned souls who are pursuing illusion under the influence of the illusory energy. And who are we? We're little people. But not little people or otherwise. We're being engaged in assisting our founder Acharya and the previous Acharyas and the Goswamis of the Lord Chaitanya's mission, whether we understand it or not. And effectiveness is not simply resting upon how much you understand. The effectiveness is resting upon the principle of bhakti. How much there is a desire to be in service. As we have received something, we'd like to give back that something that we've received, called gratitude. And that's how our devotional service begins, however much we understand or don't understand. And as we go further, and the understanding increases because of bhakti, there's a deeper realization and a deeper sense of gratitude and a deeper sense of being purified enough more than before to be able to be better instruments and so forth and so on. It's a grand process. And hearing about here in this verse, hearing about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in connection with hearing about those who are associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and how their hearts were moved and how they dedicated themselves and they let go of trying to be enjoyers of their worldly wealth and worldly position and worldly everything, and instead dedicating themselves entirely to Lord Chaitanya's mission and message. So let's go a little bit to the purport, where Jiva Goswami, in one sense, they're having fun, transcendental fun, but they're, in another sense, they're revealing truths about this verse that are not easily understood otherwise. So because 2 verses previously, Karabhajana Muni is describing the incarnation of Lord Chaitanya very clearly for the incarnation for Kali Yuga. We know the verse. He is in the Varna, or the category of Krishna, but he is not the color of Krishna. That Varna, he can have different meanings, and one of them is just like Varna and Ashram. Varna is a category. So he's in the Varna, Krishna Varna. Trisha Akrishna. His complexion is not Krishna's complexion. It's not specifically saying Lord Chaitanya by name, but it's indicating Lord Chaitanya. In this age of Kali, the Lord appears in this way. So 2 verses previously is speaking about Lord Chaitanya. At the same time, the Bhagavatam is so beautiful and the poetry of the Bhagavatam, the language of the Bhagavatam is so beautiful that it can be explaining or revealing many things at the same time. And it's not if this one's right, then that one has to be wrong. Or if that one is right, then this one has to be wrong. It can have multiple meanings at the same time. And compliments of Jiva Goswami, it's describing Krishna's position that by the prayers of, referring to specific prayers of Vasudeva and Devaki unto Krishna, Vasudeva, in the prison house of Kamsa, they asked Krishna to do something to, free him from the danger of Kamsa, and so he did. He went to the forest. Vrindavan is a forest. Vrindavana, Vana, it's a forest. So he went to the forest under the advice of Vasudeva and Devaki. And let's go over how he's taking the words and rendering them so that it's Krishna. Maya Mrigam. Thus, the words Surepsita Raja Lakshmin indicate Sri Mathura Sampatim, the opulence of Mathura. The opulence of Mathura, Raja Lakshmi. Mathura is described in Vedic literature as the reservoir of all opulence because of the touch of the Lord's lotus feet in that precinct. Maya Mrigam indicate the special exalted relationship between Radharani and Sri Krishna. Though this is very interesting. I mean, it's very poetic. But it's not wrong. It's just a poetic rendering of the poetry of the Bhagavatam. That Radharani was engaging with Krishna like a young girl engages with a toy animal, Mayamrigam. And she kept him under her control by her very special love. And this way, he was obedient to her or subordinate to her, Mayamrigam. Thus, due to Srimati Radharani's aradhana or worship, Krishna can never leave Vrindavan. Thus, the word anvadavat indicates Krishna's boyish activities. His running throughout the transcendental land of Vrindavan, tightly under the control of the love of Srimati Radharani. There's a nice verse, amongst many nice verses in the Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 9, and I forget the verse number, where it's described in relation to the personality of Godhead that according to the love and worship that one has towards Him, He shows that form. He reveals that form according to the worship and love that one has, the regard that one has for Him. So these Goswamis, they have such love for Krishna. So even in a verse that's glorifying Lord Chaitanya, it's glorifying Krishna. And that's just fine, because Krishna and Lord Chaitanya are the same. But one can read it this way, and that's how he's reading it, Jiva Goswami. It's not just, clever jugglery of Sanskrit terminology. Krishna is revealing things to him, revealing himself to him, according to his love for him. Then Sridhar Swami has taken the same verse and said that one of the ways of appreciating this verse is it's Ramachandra. And some of the details. Maya Mrigam, that Maricha in the form of the golden deer, a false animal. Yeah. And then the conclusion is exactly all three. You can say it's this one, that one, the other one, or all three. That's the Sadbhuja form. Now, I don't know of any outside of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. If there's other references to Sadbhuja, form of the Lord. But for sure it's there in Chaitanya's Leela. It's a form that he showed to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, for example. And one person, one entity, exhibiting these three features at the same time. So this verse is exhibiting these three features at the same time. They're all right. And at the same time, it's in the context of glorifying Lord Chaitanya. this little section of chapter 5. How is the Lord to be worshipped is the question in the different ages. And he's worshipped this way. So again, the Canto 3, chapter 9 verse is according to one's worship. That's the form that that Krishna will reveal according to their love and their worship. And if you're Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, you see all three forms in one. Sadbhuja. And if you're Jiva Goswami, you can see what he can see. This is about Lord Chaitanya, about Krishna. It's not to say it's not about Lord Chaitanya, but it's also about Krishna. The Goswamis, because that's our theme for this visit, the Goswamis certainly are highly focused on Krishna. Their writings are, just as we discussed yesterday evening, Sanatana Goswami, a special lover of Krishna. His writings are in relation to Srimad Bhagavatam. And Srimad Bhagavatam is known specifically as a revealer of Krishna's pastimes. Now, because it's Bhagavat Purana, the other forms of Bhagavan are there, but Krishna is the original form from which all other forms expand, or are his expansions. And the highlight goes to Krishna. 10th canto, so many chapters dealing with details and details, unlike any other form of the Lord. Thus, the spotlight is on Krishna in Srimad Bhagavatam. And within Krishna is everything. So the other forms of the Lord are also described. And it's not that the six Goswamis were oblivious to the other forms of the Lord, while they're having special appreciation for Krishna. Okay, so I think that's what I'll present just for this morning on this verse. We'll pick another verse as we go along for discussing in the morning class. I haven't identified a verse yet for Monday. It's going to be Tuesday morning. Any discussion? What was the incident?
Yeah, Haridas Thakur accepted Krishna. Like how it,
How did it happen? How did it start?
Yeah.
We don't have that understanding because all we hear about Haridas is he was born in a Muslim family and he was deeply attracted to the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Now, it begs the question, your question, how did that start? What was the impetus for him to have attraction for the Hare Krishna Mahamantra? There's no historical information indicating the answer to that. It just was his nature. There must have been something. At least from a previous life, and we know from Navadvip Dham Mahatmya, in his previous life he was Brahma. But in this life we don't know. I mean, he's just attracted to the Hare Krishna mantra. Okay?
Yeah. Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Just a question out of curiosity. Did Bhaktisiddhanta ever said that if one has to choose between the Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and Chaitanya Charitamrita has more importance? No, not more importance, but if one has one choice to choose between the three.
He said, he didn't say it quite like that, but yes, he said something like that.
Mm.
He said it went more like this. If in this world all the books of the world were destroyed, it would be okay, provided one has Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Mm.
And then he went on to say, and even if Srimad Bhagavatam was unavailable, the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam is within Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Mm.
So if one has Chaitanya Charitamrita, one has everything.
Mm.
I mean, those aren't his exact words, but it's like that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Online? Okay.
I was want to know about this Karaboja Muni, because I have never heard about.
That's the name of one of the Navayogendras. The Navayogendras are sons of King Rishabdev. They became known as the Navayogendras. Karabhajana Muni is one of them.
Okay.
That's all.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Maharaj, this question is by Prakash Narayan Govindan, Prabhu. He says, Sri Vaishnavas attribute the Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5.32 to Nam Alvar. Although they respect Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they don't see him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Gopal Bhatta Goswami grew up as a Sri Vaishnava and son of the head priest of Sri Rangam. He gave material which formed the basis of both the Sampradayas and the Hari Bhakti Vilas. Do we have
Sandarbhas is the word.
Sandarbhas, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Do we have from the Sad Goswamis or any of our acharyas on the claim by Sri Vaishnavas?
Do we have them where? On the... Read the last sentence.
Yeah. Do we have from the Sad Goswamis or any of our acharyas on the claim by the Sri Vaishnavas?
On the claim? On the claim is the language? On the claim. Do we have from the Sad Goswamis or any of our acharyas on the claim? I don't know what that on the claim means. On the claim by Sri Vaishnavas. I don't know what on the claim means. Do you know what it means? Okay. Okay. Well, not really. Okay, now I understand the question. Thank you for the clarification. Our Goswamis and personalities in our line in general are not inclined to philosophical disputes between this group, that group, and another group. They just, they state things. And, if there's impersonalists and offenders, etc., they'll draw some lines, our acharyas. But there's nothing said about such a claim of the Sri Vaishnavas. that I'm aware of, that this Mahapurusha is the Alvars, and that's their claim. I mean, I don't know if that's a fact either. I mean, it probably is because he's saying, but I don't know if they say that. But is there some comment by the Goswamis about this verse is about the Alvars? They don't make those kind of comments. Next.
The next question is by Snehavali Mataji. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. It is interesting to see that two aspects of the verse are not explained by both Jiva Goswami and Sridhar Swami. These are the Brahmana's curse and searching your own desired object, Lord Shamasundara, in their explanation. So is it safe to assume that these parts of the verse is not applicable to Lord Krishna and Lord Ram?
No, it doesn't mean that. For that matter, the BBT commentator, I assume it was because of his language, because of the language used. It was Hriday Nanda Maharaj. It may be, you have the resource, you can go and look. Maybe they did comment and he just didn't put it in the BBT purport. So it's not safe to assume that. And they could speak on something and not speak on something else, and it doesn't mean that it's not appropriate for Krishna, so they didn't comment on it. And, I'm just thinking about the claim of the Sri Vaishnavas. Have Sri Vaishnavas, I'm unaware, instead, other than Veera Raghava Acharya, of Sri Vaishnavas commenting on Srimad Bhagavatam. And Srila Prabhupada referred to again and again Veera Raghava, his commentary, and it's Krishna Bhakti. So I'm not sure, going back to it, the prior question, if in fact Sri Vaishnava Acharyas have commented that this verse in the Bhagavatam is specific to the Alvars. I'm surprised to hear that. I'm surprised to hear that they're commenting on Srimad Bhagavatam and connecting the Bhagavatam to the Alvars. I'm surprised to hear that. I'm not doubting it. I'm surprised. Go ahead. That's it. Anything else? Yes.
Hi, Krishna Maharaj. If we have an attraction for one of the three avatars, like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or Krishna or Lord Ram, is it still important to cultivate a taste for hearing the leelas of the two other avatars?
Sure. I mean, sure. So Lord Chaitanya is the avatari. Krishna is the avatari. Ram is the avatar. Supposing one has an attraction for Krishna or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it would be natural that there's some attraction for those avatars that are from the avatari or the source. And if one has an attraction for Lord Ramachandra, I know devotees that have an attraction for Lord Ramachandra, and they have an attraction for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Krishna. And they have a very clear understanding that Krishna is the source of everything, and they have an attraction, and they have an attraction for Lord Ramachandra. Or here's another nice example, a well-known example, a reasonably well-known example, is Sridhar Swami, the commentator on the Bhagavatam that Lord Chaitanya looked up to and accepted. His worshipable deity was Lord Nrsingadev. He certainly knew Krishna's position, and his attraction was for Lord Nrsingadev as his worshipable deity. So those are some examples. It is natural that there's an interest to hear. Supposing one is not even a Gaudiya Vaishnav, as Shridhar Swami was not a Gaudiya Vaishnav, but somebody else that's over there, somewhere over there, or somewhere over there. Like let's say Venkatabhatta. He knew and was interested in hearing about the various avatar forms of the Lord, although his worshipable deity was Narayana. Since their view is Narayana is the source of all avatars, then interested in the avatars. And the Sri Vaishnavas that accept Narayana as the original personality of Godhead, they also worship forms of the avatars. So, any way you look at it, from this side or that side or the other side, there would be a natural interest, a preference or a particular liking and attraction for one form or another, in the deity form, in the pastime form, and, the commentaries and expanded explanations about those particular avatars. But it doesn't preclude some interest and attraction in hearing about the other forms of the Lord. If there is something like that, then you probably could be identified as sectarian. I just forwarded to somebody a little excerpt from Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Introduction to Krishna Samhita, where he is describing what sectarian means and the different divisions of sectarianism and how it brings about division, although originally there's one. So, supposing somebody can have, I want to hear about this avatar, and I don't want to hear about any other avatar. I suppose it's possible they can just be on such a spontaneous platform that that's all they want to hear. But otherwise, it's more likely some kind of sectarian thing, if that existed. Did that answer your question? Okay. Anything else? Yes.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. So my question is again a follow-up of the same question that Mataji just asked.
Okay.
So Sri Vaishnavas, do they say Lord Narayana?
Speak directly into the microphone, thanks.
Do they have Lord Narayana as avatari and other forms as avatar of Lord Narayana?
That's their view. He's the source. Everything is from the source. And they have their views supported by scripture. That's their view.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.